Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll continue the journey to review for the rest of the 30 plus S-class Pokemon. In case you have missed out the yesterday video, I've talked about the basic 101 and I covered some of the S-class Pokemon too. So please do check them out at the link. I'll share it probably at the description. On top of that, because we still have a lot to talk about, so I'm trying to speed run this. And the plan is to I covered for the rest of the 30 plus Pokemon in one single video. So without any further ado, let's go. Let's start with the Ice Pokemon. The first we have is Articuno. The first skill is actually reduce opponent's speed. Second skill is actually freeze, and again very unique. Only that field that has a line attack. And third skill front row, freeze all opponent. And on top of that, reduce all the opponent defense. And third skill, it increase the freeze state. It means that it increase the accuracy, because if you're looking at the second skill, it has 40% chance, and third skill again 40%, and you are adding the passive of additionally 50%. So it means that you are standing a 90% to freeze the opponent, and that's huge. So on top of that, the passive also should actually reduce defense stats from the opponent for one round. So that makes Articuno is one of the top control unit out there. So I personally built Articuno as control unit. Very good to prepare if you want to make the opponent not to move. And we have Regice next. Regice, I believe, very newly released into the game. So the first skill, up defend. Second skill, cleanse negative effect, and third skill is actually front row, a multiple attack with the ability to actually make this special effect that Regice itself not able to move, but just to be there to tank. So this is a very classic build for tank unit. Even the passive is actually healing. If it's being controlled, again it heal additionally. So this is pretty much a very typical straightforward tank unit. And for Cryogonal is a very unique Pokemon. First skill, increase defense. Second skill is actually do freeze. On top of that, yeah, pretty much it's just a freeze. Third skill is actually where it also freeze the opponent. On top of that, it increase the self-defense and also have this damage reduction from the opponent. So, and the passive, again, increase defense, but when it is being attacked, it actually reflect one negative effect back to the attacker, to the opponent. So, and on top of that, it actually have the additional chance to freeze the opponent. So Cryogonal, you can actually do two things. Either you build Cryogonal as a tank because you want the passive skill to do the attack. So being attacked, and you actually reflect the negative effect into the opponent. On top of that, he does has a little bit of control function. So either you build him tank or build him control. That both actually doable. I personally will do tank because he has a lot of ability to increase defense. So putting him in the front line, making him to be a tank, I think that would be very effective to the team. Moving on to the ground type Pokemon, we have Rhyperior. First skill, defend up. Second skill, defend up. And on top of that, I think it provides the defense for the front line. And third skill, front row. It actually does decent damage, but on top of that, it does extra damage based on the defense skilling. So every time I saw when there is a skilling based on specific, especially on the defense stat, it always actually very happy because not that you're only a tank, you also does damage. So that is 2+1 advantage. On top of that, it also skilling based on the defense gap versus the opponent. The higher defense gap that you has against the target, you also gain additional damage. And the passive, again, is defense up. And every time you being attacked, you actually stack up the defense as well. So again, very solid for Rhyperior. Being a tank, as well as you want the Rhyperior to do damage. Very good unit. Crocodile first skill. It has this unique ability to make the opponent to miss the next attack, but it's only at 10%. Second skill, it disable the opponent healing, so it's a heal block to me. And third skill, it does big damage, 520, that is huge. but it's also actually do missing target or missing attack in the subsequent from the nearby targets. And on top of that, it does splash damage to the nearby target. So a little bit of big damage, a little bit of AoE. On top of that, it has this ability to make the targets to miss their attack in the subsequent attack. So it's a very RNG, but at the same time, it seems to be really good. And the passive, after being attacked, it actually does ignore defense. So what it means is that it actually does true damage equivalent of the 40% of the attack, ignoring the defense. And for each ground type of the ally present the battlefield, additional ignore defense again. So I think we found a champion. Crocodile seems to be, has a lot of RNG based attack in it, in terms of ignore defense, in terms of splash damage, in terms of making the opponent to miss their attack. So I think this is potentially a very good PvP unit for attack if you are really do want to go against hit bang in terms of stat versus stat, and you want to gain a little bit of advantage by bringing Crocodile to have this RNG, has this probability to win the opponent by using those probability. So I think this really high potential. I really like the kits. If you ask me, if today I go to arena or any battle to hit bang someone that I'm sure I will lose, I will bring Crocodile because it gave me that additional ability or probability that I could win. So this could be the magic chip that you want to bring. Next we have Lucario. Lucario is a fighting type Pokemon. First skill, increase speed. Second skill, there is this RNG base of effect, whether the attack is not so effective or is very effective, and then it create either shield or critical rate. Third skill, it actually single target, not bad of a damage. If the opponent is actually still alive, then it actually does additional attack based on 35% of the total damage. So, and the passive, pretty much again RNG. If you hit very powerful, then it's still additionally 20% of the damage. So overall, I find Lucario kind of meh, so. I think there are better attacker out there. Next we have Florges, a fairy type Pokemon. First skill, healing. Second skill, healing. But the healing is actually based on the attack stats. And third skill, it attacks the enemy, but on top of that, it also does healing. Passive, healing. When the ally Pokemon is actually receive the crit damage, also actually does healing. So end of the day, Florges is actually a support unit. She does healing a lot. But one potential that Florges actually could do, because the third skill actually AoE, attack to all enemy, and her skill actually based on a little bit of attack stat, so she can actually does damage. On top of that, she does healing. So you are playing a long game on PvE, and you basically want to bring Florges into the support unit, and she can heal, she can actually does a little bit of damage, she can does a little bit of tank too if you want to. So it's a good unit overall. Northern, first skill, reduce the opponent's speed for 2 rounds. Second skill, it increased speed by 15%, not sure what that means, but it reduced the target's immunity for 2 rounds. Third skill, okayish damage is on the line attack. However, I like that it's actually scaling with speed. When the speed is higher than the opponent, you do additionally 35% true damage, because it disregard the opponent defense stat, and on top of that, it makes the opponent confused for 1 round. Passive, again, is scaling on speed. When you are faster than the opponent, you have a 20% chance to dodge damage. So overall, I find Northern pretty much fall into the support attack type unit, not for PvP, pretty much gonna for PvE. Moving on to the Sidekick Pokemon. In this game, I think they call it Mega. We have Alakazam. First skill, speed reduction. Second skill, it has this ability to silence the target for 1 round. When it's silenced, the opponent is unable to use small move or ultimate move. So, and third skill, attack AoE and disable the opponent. On top of that, it reduce defense if the opponents are not being disabled. and passive is a control. So the the passive already given away. This is definitely a control unit. So on top of that, it actually increased the control rate. So what it means is it has 30% on the second skill and 35% on the third skill. So adding the the control rate, so it just has the additional ability to make sure that the opponent land on this negative ability. And on top of that, when the own HP is lower 30%, it transfers the confusion from 2 random ally to the opponent, and also enable the disable ability. So overall, very control kits. Beside Articuno, I think Alakazam will be one of the good one to use it into the team on PvE to actually make control. Mew, everyone get a Mew in this game. First skill, control rate. Second skill, random buff, random debuff. Third skill, Star Dreamland, again is a random negative effect to the opponent, but it is an AoE damage, but Mew doesn't do high damage. And the passive skill is a stealth mode. Whenever the damage is taken, it goes on the stealth mode, and potentially also it will actually reflect the negative status condition to the opponent. So overall, Mew is a very support kit, it's a very support unit. So just build Mew to be there to support the team. Just make sure that you have attacker in the team. Gardevoir, first skill, Fascinate, is actually confuse the opponent to force the general attack on the A-line monster. Second skill, Single, and to increase the charming 5%. That's kind of low. And for back row, for third skill, attack on back row is actually kind of standard damage, but on top of that, it actually inflict the infatuation to the black lines enemy for 1 round. And passive, additional 20% on the accuracy. So overall, it's a control unit, but if you have Articuno or Alakazam into control, you pretty much can put Gardevoir into storage. I don't find Gardevoir kits are impressive at all. Gillette is the male versions of Rot, and Gardevoir is the female version. For Gillette, first skill, standard attack single, and it actually inflict this confusion effect. Confusion effect is randomness. The opponent basically will randomly attack either ally or is actually enemy on the general on the first skill. And the second skill is actually extend the confusion. So, and the third skill, it hits quite hard on a single target, and actually 70%, that is actually a very high chance to inflict confusion into the target for 1 round again. So, and also it's actually buff block. So what it means is that if the target successfully confused, the target also unable to use any buff effect for 3 rounds. So it's a very good typical control attack unit. So also take a look at the passive. The passive is that when you attack the control target, it increases additionally for 40% damage. So this is a very unique 2-in-1 kind of Pokemon. It has control function in it, and it deals damage. So Gillette is very good unit in PvE. Moving on to Ghost type Pokemon, we have Gengar, and everyone get a Gengar in 3rd days or 5th day. So Gengar is one of my favorite. First skill, inflict fear state into target. Second skill, single attack, is basically just a life steal. It's actually recover HP. And third skill is attack on all enemy. What it does, it inflict the fear state. And what is fear? Is actually increase the negative effect on attack reduction. On top of that, is also on the rage reduction. And passive, while making the enemy on the fear state, which means that the rage reduction, it actually gain and absorb the rage from the target. So it actually means that Gengar able to recycle the ulti skill much faster than the others. So it's one of the best unit out there because it's such a good support type. Dusknoir, the first skill, it creates a black hole where enemy absorb into a black hole, can't doing any attack, and it can't be attacked. And second skill, General Sense, is a damage reflection. So when it get attacked, it reflect the damage to the opponent. And the third skill, only the front row, again is actually on the black hole thing. And the passive, with the reflection skill, it actually recover HP, but it based on the defense skilling. So what actually, the kids tells me, you need to build does not on a high defense, because you want to do that damage reflection, so you have to has a little bit of HP too. So it's pretty much a tank unit build, but on top of that, it has this black hole thing, so it became a tank plus control kind of Pokemon unit. So you have to do a little bit of combination and test with this does no. I personally probably will try it out, but maybe I will use something else as a tank. Does no doesn't give me a high impressive as a tank unit. Let's take a look at the steel Pokemon. First one we have is Steelix. First skill, defend up. Second skill, damage reduction. And third skill, attack on all enemy, and is based on speed scaling. And passive is one of the few, or maybe the only one in the game, that when is every time it get attacked, it counter back. So I really love this kid, and Steelix been carrying my game most of the time. I personally like Steelix a lot because definitely it's a tank, and because of the passive, the first skill actually hits very hard, and the defense also gets stacked up. So you pretty much just want to build Steelix into high defense, a little bit of damage, and on top of that, the only bad thing is that it requires so much stat, because the third skill has a little bit of speed requirements too, so it eats up a lot of stats. So, but nevertheless, Steelix is a very, very good unit for tank. Aggron, first skill, defense up. Second skill, damage reduction. Third skill, defense up again, and also create steel shield. And the steel shield is based on Aggron defense stats. And passive, again, is a shield's ability to the A-line Pokemon with the lowest HP. Again, is skilling based on Aggron defense stats. So I think we have a winner here. Aggron is one of the best tank unit out there. You need to build very good defense stats for Aggron, and just make sure that he's there to do a little bit of damage on his third skill, which is not bad. On top of that, it's pretty much the tank unit out there, and I think we found our champion. He's the winner. Metagross. Metagross first skill, cooldown reduction. That's interesting. On the small skill, which means that you get to recycle this skill much faster, which is X Cannon, on a single target, and it's so unique. It's it's taunting the enemy at the back line, usually the attacker, to attack Metagross itself. And as of course it increased the defense, so it's like a tank control move. And then the third skill, front row, multiple targets. The attack damage is slightly higher too. And what it does is it consumes all energy point, and it actually does increase the damage. Okay, so I think it's all rely on this condition, on this energy point. I assume it's gonna be the passive. Yep. So every time you get attacked, you recover 20 rage, and every time your rage is 100%, you convert into 1 energy. And 1 energy can be stacked up to 4. And before being attacked, the energy is basically will be used as an immunity to ultimate skill. It's very complex. It's so much dependency on this energy point, but it seems like this is a good tank for long game. So because you need to accumulate on this rage and also this energy point, and using this to actually use the third skill to make the third skill more higher damage. On top of that, you have to actually recycle your second skill to continue provoke or to taunt the enemy for attacking Metagross itself. So there's a lot of condition required. There's a lot of complexity involved. And it's a long game. So you can't really do it on autos as well, because you need to be very selective, and you really need to be very specific what the skill you want to use it for. So for myself, I'll put it into storage. It's just too much conditions to be relied. Aegislash, one of the most unique Pokemon in the series. Very simple, because Aegislash, it has the ability to swing 2 ways, either into blade form or into shield form, and blade obviously is more advantage into offense and attack, and shield form very into defense and tank. So quickly into the skill. First skill, attack buff, and defense form, defense buff. And for second skill, it is actually attack buff to the A line, and defense buff to the A line subject to which form that you turn into. And I think third skill it draw the most variation and differentiation. And in the shield form, it actually creates speed buff to all A line and to self. And into a sword form, it has additional damage because of the ignore defense, which I like about because of the true damage. And the passive, it has this battle assist where you actually attack the basic attack together with an A line, which I think is kind of so-so, not so impressive to me. And for shield form, I think this is where it has a little bit advantage and a little bit of a special ability where it protects the A line on the lowest HP for 1 round, and on top of that is damage reduction and it creates shield. So I think overall my takes is Aegislash could be really helpful in tank, in more of a support role, but overall it needs to be tested out. I think this is one of the most complex and it requires a lot of testing. Moving very quickly into bug type of Pokemon, we have a Scizor. Scizor first skill, critical up rate for 2 rounds, and it actually allows you to attack the back line. So which means that Scizor will be likely to focus on attacking the attacker from the opponent line. And second skill, additional damage. It has this ability called Prey Mark, so it just deals additional damage into those that actually has Prey Mark target. Third skill, again it deals single target with big damage, absorbing additional attack for 3 rounds. Third skill, again additional damage for enemy that has lower 30% HP, which means any enemy that has only remaining 70% HP and below, they likely will take additional damage from Scizor. So overall, Scizor is a attack unit, focusing on damage. Probably the only downside is Scizor might be a little bit squishy. It needs a little bit of protection. Other than that, Scizor is there to kill. Heracross, first skill, very small damage. It's actually lower than the standard, but it gave the RNG 40% chance to hit 1 more time to the random enemy. Second skill, single attack, it increased the defense. Third skill, single attack again, very low damage, but it has again this RNG base of attack where randomly it may attack additional times and it may be accumulate up to 3 times. So it means that it's multiple attack. It could be hit once and then randomly it may hit again and hit again and hit again. And the passive, after every 3 attack in the battle, the attack will deal true damage. Okay, this is now making sense. So but I think it still need to be tested out. Either the 3 attack means it's 3 round or 3 attack. I don't have this unit to test it out. So nevertheless, it seems like has a little bit of RNG involved. So if the 3 attack means that it is actually 3 hits in a single round, that is massive. Heracross gonna be crazy, because true damage with multiple hits, eventually the opponent's gonna take a lot of damage in. So but if it's required to recycle for 3 rounds, it means that Heracross likely will go into a long battle, which I think is not gonna be good. So hence it really subject to what is the conditions of the requirement of this passive. So as soon as I manage to find out, I probably post in the comment, but otherwise this is my take. So it really subject to the passive. Time out, we are going into a commercial break. So calling for a like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. At the same time, as for sharing, I made these skill compilations for myself, but at the same time I think that it may be really beneficial for those that new into the game. Feel free to go to the description to download for the Excel sheet, and please feel free to use it for your testing, to use it for your team formation, and I think this may be really useful to some of you. And I hope the developer, they will add this feature into the game sooner or later, as we have more Pokemon into the game and more effects and feature. So I think we need this sort of mechanic and this sort of filtering system that enable for our gameplay. So nevertheless, that is for sharing. Again, feel free to use it. Let's go back to our review. Quickly covering the normal type of Pokemon, we only have Snorlax and Slacking. Snorlax, first skill, defense up. Second skill, cleanse and recover HP. And third skill, attack all enemy and enter into this self sleep. So stun and self sleep, and self sleep I think believe in passive. When you are HP lower than 20%, you actually has this special effect that all the damage you receive will be converted into recover HP. So and Snorlax doesn't do damage, so it leads me to believe that you have to do Snorlax into a tank type. And slacking, first skill, defense up. Second skill, recovering HP. And third skill, it deals like super crazy damage and it ignores defense, which I like about. However, it is similar to Snorlax. It went to sleep, but what it's different is slacking still receiving the damage despite that he's on this sleep mode. So that I don't fancy. And the passive mode again is actually deal additional damage, additional attack power. So overall, Snorlax and slacking, to me, they are like getting your salary in a month or in a week. They showed up once for fun and then they gone the next day. So personally, I don't recommend to use any of it. For the purpose of fun, I think you could do so. But other than that, you definitely can be replace them easily with other units. Salamence. First skill, attack buff. Second skill, additional damage. On top of that is the tier effect. Third skill, tier effect again. Additional layer, and it attack on front row, multiple target, but the damage is okay-ish. Passive, this is where the tier effect is actually explained. So tier effect actually heal block. On top of that, it's actually deal ignore defense, which is a true damage of Salamence 30% of attack power. So you have to build Salamence on attack, and it seems definitely is an attack type Pokemon. But what I don't like about is Salamence seems to require setup. If it's a longer battle where you need to land all this tier effect that making people cry, then when you slap harder, then only people actually take more damage. So if it's a short fight, definitely I would not recommend Salamence. But if it's a longer fight, probably I think it's worth the consideration. Gacham. First skill, speed buff. Second skill, attack buff with a little bit of leech HP, which is HP recover. And third skill, line attack, slightly above average attack power and deal additional damage to the back line. Passive, I think this is what Gacham all about, the rampage status. So the HP, when it drops below 35%, it turns into a monster. Increase of the attack buff, speed buff, critical buff with probably a little bit of vulnerability, and then also deal true damage, which is ignore defense, based on 10% of total HP. So I think it deals total damage when the HP drop to 35%. But what I don't like about is like this is like anti of Tyranita kind of build. When the HP drop, they deal more, they do more, and they deal much damage. But Gacham doesn't have that survivability kit, which I think is a disadvantage. So I personally think if you can do Entei or Tyranita, they will be stand a better chance in any form of shape. So Gacham likely will be in the storage. Hexarus. First skill, reduce defense on the enemy target. Second skill, it is single attack, standard damage, it lock the target. So this is like Metagross, right? It has this taunting effect. Oh yes, exactly in the description. So additional damage will be landed if the opponent has this taunt or lock effect on them. And third skill, big damage. At the same time, it's permanently reducing the defense from the enemy, and also it gains attack power. So very well designed actually. And then passive, after the attacking, there's 30% chance to land another same attack without recovering the rage. Okay, understand? But still, the additional RNG in terms of having the same attack, that's huge actually. And continuously attack on the same enemy, the attack power actually progressively increase as well, and is at the maximum of 100%. So very, very well designed. in terms of, you know, such a driven targeting attack, you know, on the locking of the target power, attack power increase based on the locking, and then it progressively up in terms of, you know, all this damage and so on and so forth. So personally, I think this is actually doable, usable when it's come to longer fight, because it requires setup again. So you only deal actual bigger damage when it comes to second round or third round. So hence, you know, it requires a little bit of setup. It meant for a longer fight. Gudra. First skill, damage reduction. Second skill, it has this Gu effect that makes enemy only able to use basic attack and small skill. So it's a single target. Third skill, it provides defense up to the ally, also damage reductions, and negative effect will reduce into half. Okay, and passive, when it receives the critical, it reduces critical damage, and then also HP recover based on the defense. So this seems like a tank support unit, but mostly support. But you know, the kits are so bad that, you know, Suicune can just win this like 7 miles away. So I don't think Gudra is actually that good when it comes to support or tank. So hence, I probably will put this into storage. Moving into dark type of Pokemon, first we have Viville. Viville first skill, attack up for 2 rounds. Second skill, it frees the front row. I think this is the only Pokemon in the game that has front row on the second skill, and it's 100%. And on top of that, it's still attack power from the enemies. Third skill is single target. It deals big damage. On top of that, it has additional 60% more damage to the frozen target. And on top of that, you know, if the enemy is not frozen, then it has an 80% chance to freeze it one more time. And from passive, again, is a icy trap. Again, is to freeze people for every attack that she deals with the enemy. And if the target is frozen or icy trap, the defense is also get reduced, and also have an additional 20% chance to frozen for 1 round. So I think the kits of Viville is so good. It's actually attack type, but at the same time, you know, everything was lined up for her. Attack buff, defense reduction. On top of that, it has this control kit set, you know, freezing the opponent. So Viville is so good in this game. Houndoom, first skill, standard attack with 15% of Vampire randomly given to the backline. So the backline attacker will get this Vampire buff. Vampire buff, I believe, is the HP leech from the opponent. And second skill, Fire Fang, which is quite a standard, but it has this again added buff to the ally with the highest attack, which means your, you know, number 1 killer will get this effect called Flash Fire, where again additional damage will be stacked in the numerous round to hit harder. So third skill, ultimate, is actually all enemy, small damage, but what it does is it steal the defense from the enemy, and proportionally it redistribute back to your entire ally Pokemon for 2 rounds. So it's a stealing defense from the opponent, and the dark type obviously will gain more. And the third, the passive move is basically distribute all the Houndoom attack evenly to all the ally. So, you know, it's given is a support role. So, you know, you have to build a little bit of balance with, you know, all the Houndoom kits in terms of attack, in terms of HP, in terms of defense. So Houndoom is there to a very good support role in all your team. Absol, first skill, standard attack with lifesteal ability. You know, taking 10% from the opponent. If the opponent is a strong unit in the PvE boss, then it will be taking Absol base HP as a denominator. Second skill, single attack, quite standard damage. Limit to 3% to dungeon bosses and 10% to the opponent. So again, it's a lifesteal. Third skill, it actually has these 2 negative effects come into play. One is disaster and one is curse mark. I would assume the disaster is the passive. Yes, so randomly disaster effect will be given out to the opponent randomly each round, and you know, this disaster basically will do HP reduction defense reduction, attack power reduction, and those that inflicted with disaster effect, Absol actually will do additional damage. And Curse Mark, I think is actually something that's at least the most fascinated here. Is basically it causes the opponent to lose 15% of true damage. That is a total without considering the defense, and that will be the one that actually doing the most damage. So it requires a setup. I think it's actually meant for PvE for Absol. You know, it actually have to hit multiple rounds in order to make the lifesteal as well as the Curse Mark and the disaster to work. Dragon, first skill attack buff, second skill ignore defense, third skill you know, I think it's attack to all enemy on a random basis. He will do 6 hit, but the single hit is actually not that big damage. But I think the advantage is that I think this will be taken as an AoE damage, because the less enemy opponent remain in the team, which means that, you know, all this damage will be equally shared with the team or the remaining small team. So eventually, let's look at the passive before we make the call. The passive is basically not bad. It's actually stealing attack from the enemy, and it stack up to max of 40% of the own attack power. So what it means is it's definitely meant for PvE, because, you know, you need time to do multiple runs, and you need to actually keep stealing the attack power from the opponent, and in long run, basically, you know, he deals the ignore defense on the second skill, and also deal more damage on the third skill. Zoroark, first skill speed buff, second skill up defense, absorb defense from the enemy, as well as to create illusion. So that sounds like a low key. And third skill, it hits actually very hard. On top of that, you know, again, if the target is alive, it create another illusion. So okay, it's really a low key. And Shadow, again, is a low key where, you know, it transform and, you know, manipulate and turn into the enemy with the highest attack. Then there's some condition to it, but I think this is actually very unique, and I think it might be actually useful bringing Zoroark into PvP against a stronger opponent. And I think this is the unique way that, you know, you want to bring RNG into play and try to trick and try to win the opponent via the RNG. Finally, we come to an end. Rock Pokemon Tyranita. First skill, increase of resistance rate. Second, max out of the HP. Third is pretty much the makeup of the first and second into third, because the third skill required Tyranita to sacrifice own HP and immunity rate just to do you know, big damage. And on top of that, the passive, where it makes Tyranita very good. Two things: the lower the HP, it hits the harder. So that's one. Second is Tyranita has this survive kit. You know, whenever the HP drop to very little, it has this immune to death for 1 round. So this actually makes Tyranita really good in PvP. Again, thanks for dropping by. Just to wrap this up with my personal preference, my control unit probably will go to Articuno, Kriagono, Weavile, maybe a little bit Alakazam. For tank, I definitely would think that Hyperion or Aggron, these two probably stand out the most. For support, I definitely would think Suicune, maybe a little bit Gengar, a little bit Mew, and Hondoom. These 4 probably will be a very good support unit. For damage, I was going to split them into AoE and single. For AoE, I definitely think that Magnezone and Hydreigon, these 2 are the good all damage dealer. And for single target, I definitely think Tyranita, Green Ninja, and definitely I would like to try out a Crocodile. So probably these are my top preference at the moment, and I hope to give you some perspective in terms of, you know, how you want to form your team and how to actually want to advance your game style. So thanks again. If you have not liked or subscribed my page, please do so. You know, thanks a lot. Thanks again. Bye bye.